Hey, good to see
Hi.
you again.
Good to see you.
So you are the head of rigging at Cirque du Soleil CA here in Las Vegas at MGM Grand. CA is one of the most technologically advanced theater shows in the world. How do you coordinate something like that, of that scale?
A lot of really great teams, and everybody coordinates and works together to make us a seamless experience for the audience.
So you have a lot of strong people. You have like a really solid team.
We have great teams. Some of the best people I've ever worked with. Everybody's very knowledgeable in their field, and we all work together really closely.
So you must be a mega multitasker.
Mega. Yeah.
And you manage about 90 people?
We have 90 technicians. In my department, I have 47. The automation department, 12. Carpentry, 30. I mean, it's all split up.
You have a pretty majorly massive rotating stage that's the centerpiece of the show. It's almost like an actor in itself.
We think of it as one of the stars of the show.
Yeah, it's one of the stars of the show. So tell us a little bit about the technology behind that and how it's orchestrated behind the scenes.
So that's the Sandcliffe deck that you're talking about, and that's a 25 by 50 stage, which is on a Gantry Crane that comes out on an arm, and it sits on that. And that will rotate 360. It'll turn 100 degrees or flat. It goes in all kinds of positions for the show.
And it's the technology I hear is made from old mining, like a.
It's a Gantry crane technology, and some of that. A lot of times you see that in shipping yards or the big cranes that go over the boats and pick up the containers. What we've done is we put an arm on the main gantry section, and the platform sits on that. It has 4 hydraulic cylinders, the longest in the world. They were manufactured just for us. They're when compressed, 74 feet. And the stage can travel 72 feet throughout the showroom.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and on those stages, as they rotate, there's like multimedia, like, you know, films
The video
and footage.
system, yes.
And how does that work?
So for the Gantry crane specifically, everything that's going on in automation is sending feedback back to the program that controls the video. Within that program is a virtual representation of that stage and virtual cameras. So we're getting information from the automation system, and there's also IR emitters throughout the theater, and the cameras are picking up the IR and they're mapping it that way. Other ways the video system works, we're not showing actual clips. Everything's being generated on the spot.
Like live. It's all completely live on the spot.
Completely live. So when artists get on the stage, there's 2 ways they're tracked, the IR emitters, and there's also 90 static tiles in the deck, much like your cell phone.
Yeah.
So when they get on the deck, it senses where they are, and it will provide.
So you see when an actor like puts a foot down on the stage, it makes like kind of a puddle. And
So
it
depending
interacts
on
with
what
the
act it
actors.
is, one it's like puddles, another one it's when rocks come down when they're climbing up. It senses where they're climbing. It'll project rocks on there.
Super cool. So there, you guys have massive amount of pyrotechnics. In fact, you're one of the biggest theater productions with the biggest amount of fire on the stage, which is super cool. And you have a big fireworks show at the end. But your fire detection system is totally tied into MGM Grand Hotel. How do you coordinate that with them?
So like at the beginning of the show, we have 30-foot fireballs that are going off as the audience walks in. And at that time, we send a cue basically to the fire command at MGM, and they'll disable certain parts of the fire detection system so we can set those fireballs off and not set off a bunch of alarms and sprinklers.
So to avoid a major, like to flood all of the people at the casino at MGM Grand. Okay. And then you have over 4,000 speakers in all the seats that are in, they're almost individually, grouped, customized sound effects to give it a real immersive experience.
So if you're sitting in your chair, you have a set of stereo speakers behind you, and there's 16 different zones in the theater. And then so as you're watching what's going on stage, as things are happening, it can be passing by you, and it really adds to the experience that way. There's a total of 4,700 speakers in the room.
When I was there the other night, the behind-the-scenes thing we did, I noticed you had one elevator. Is this massive building with a couple hundred employees that are working at one time and 11 floors. How do you guys coordinate using one elevator when people are running in and out on every floor?
So as we were developing the show and doing choreography and cues for the artists and cue tracks for the technicians, we also wrote cues for the elevator.
That's
so
amazing.
During the show, you have to follow that cue sheet. If somebody just walks up and says, "Oh, I don't feel like walking," and they take that elevator, it can screw up an act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many hours do you work a week?
60 maybe?
Okay, that's
50?
not too terrible. That's not too terrible.
No, it's not awful. We've been running for 11 years, so it's not like we're in the middle of production. And
Yeah. One thing that was super impressive when I saw the show the other night was the you guys import an insane amount of cork from Portugal to create that whole beach scene, and then you recycle it for a year in these coffers down below the stage. I thought that was pretty impressive. Does it really last a year?
I'm told it lasts a year. I don't have a lot to do with it. I get it in my shoes all the time, but
Oh, I bet,
that's
yeah.
about the extent.
Well, I find it interesting because they bury their faces in it, like over and over and over.
They have little air tubes, so if you're buried in cork, you have a little
Yeah.
thing and it's sticking out.
One other thing that I thought was very impressive was and I think that you told me that there's robotics used in this, is the pegs that pop out for the actors to kind of stand on and move around when the stage is vertical.
So there's 80 actuators in the deck, and steel rods get shot out about 18 inches when the deck's up like this, and they can climb around on it.
And there's digital projections that follow the pegs popping out, like splashes that show these splashes.
The idea is the pegs is the archers come out and they're shooting arrows, and the characters are climbing on those arrows. So as each one pops out, projector senses which one's popping, and it gets a
Yeah, it's
little
so
spark.
impressive.
Yeah, it's cool.
And what about just safety measures? Is there anything that's kind of like higher tech than usual?
We have the two largest acrobatic nets in the world. They're about 70 by 70. We use a variety of different airbags. We have the largest one in the world for one of our acts, where we have a 70-foot fall. Whenever anybody's walking along the front part of the stage, we're putting airbags up down in the basement. So yeah.
Cool. Is there anything that we've missed? Because I feel like we've covered.
We have so much cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you could walk around and spend a whole day in just one area and talk about
And
all
all
the
the
different stuff.
animatronic, I was really impressed with that bird. It was sort of like the plane, and they all got into the.
Yeah, that's on 5 different axes, and it's very much like the cameras they use at the NFL.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
as it's
interesting.
flying around the theater and over the audience, you have all the winches, and some are pulling and some letting out. And
Yeah, and then the birds that come out of the side, those are operated by people, right?
those are just puppets, yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. That was
No
a very
problem.
fascinating interview. Okay.
Have a good one.